So hi everyone, welcome to today's Healthy Living Together event. Just as a reminder, this is an event that is co-collaborated with McKenzie Health System, Great Start Collaborative, Community Mental Health, and the Sanilac County Health Department. And so we appreciate all of the agencies who participate in this. And so today we have 𝗚𝗲𝘃𝗲𝗹, who is doing our Fairy Gardens presentation. So we're very thankful and fortunate to have her here today. And just as a reminder, next month, July 16th, we will have Cooking with Kids with Erin Carlson. So thank you for being here, Jen, and I'm looking forward to the presentation.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much, Emily. Emily asked me to do this about a year ago, and so I was very honored that she did ask me. Like she mentioned, my name is 𝗚𝗲𝘃𝗲𝗹. I know a couple of people in here. My husband is here with me because I have a bum knee. So I'm not gonna be moving around so much, so he's gonna be my fan. So I just wanted to talk a little bit while you guys are eating, how I got involved with the fairy garden world. I know I worked in the human service world in this county for quite a few years, and in 2021, our daughter passed away unexpectedly. She was 24 years old. She was expecting twin girls when she passed, and we lost them all. So that was very devastating to our family. So obviously grief is a form of mental health. And, you know, I needed to live on with her memory in mind and do good things. So has anyone been out to Diamond Trail to see the butterfly garden? Okay. All right. That butterfly garden, my husband and I restored that area in memory of our daughter and our granddaughters. And to this day, our family, we maintain it, we're expanding it, and it has a fairy garden. That is how I got involved. My daughter wanted to build a fairy garden at our home. Unfortunately, we didn't get that opportunity, so I built one for her. And so we have actually we have two fairy gardens out at the butterfly garden, if you ever get a chance to visit, if you haven't. There's a really large one on the main path, and then I have one off, if you meander off toward the woods. And it's been fun, and I think it's been important for me to find the joy in my life again, and thinking of her smiling makes me happy. So that makes me happy. And I think that's where this is so important, to do something that's fun that you can do with your daughters, your granddaughters. This is a really good thing that you could do at like special kids events, or even birthday parties would be fun too. So all the supplies here, I didn't know if you all knew you were gonna go home with a fairy garden. So of course, this is just a few things, and this is all courtesy of the Butterfly and Hummingbird Memorial Gardens. Earlier this year, it became an organization. We are a nonprofit organization, and our mission really is to bring beauty and sereneness for people just to relax and enjoy it, the sounds. And then we also highly advocate for pollinators. So the hummingbirds, the butterflies, bees. In fact, I don't know if any of you know, this week happens to be National Pollinator Week. So I have another special thing that I'll give to you guys before we end today. So yeah, each one of you are gonna have a container. I have two different styles. I have kind of a fancy plastic one, and then I have a clear plastic one like this. And you will get to put in hens and chicks we brought, because hens and chicks are so hardy, and these are outdoor hardy plants too. So if you choose to move your fairy garden to an outdoor location, you can absolutely do that with these plants, no problem. So how many of you have a fairy garden? Kind of, yeah, kind of, sort of, that's all right. Hey, something is right. Yeah, and each little fairy garden will have a little house such like this, so hopefully everybody got one. Good. I cleaned out Dollar Tree, a couple Dollar Trees. And that's the nice thing, is that this does not have to be an expensive project. You can recycle things you guys have. You can go into the dollar store and spend, you know, very inexpensively. You can go to Amazon, you can go to Etsy, and you can find other items that are handcrafted that are a little more pricey, but you certainly don't have to. That's the nice thing. But this is something fun that I wanted you all to go home with, and hopefully it brings a little smile to your face every time you guys see it, right? Yeah. So I know a lot of you are probably eating right now, so it's probably hard, but we started off choosing the dishes, and we put a little bit of soil in it. Now these do not have any holes in the bottom, so that's why I'm choosing hens and chicks, because you do not have to water them very much. They're a succulent, so they require very little water, right? And all kinds of forms of succulents are really good. Sedum, how many of you are familiar with sedums? Yeah, I have a lot of ground sedums that would be really good. You could plant them on the edge and have them drape over, and a lot of them that are on the small side. Yeah. How many of you have, now do you have outdoor fairy garden, or do you have an indoor? Outdoor, fantastic. That's my favorite kind. I have one at my house built into a rock wall, which is kind of neat. And I love using rocks, which is why we have a couple different sizes. We have some pea gravel for everybody and some river rock, because it's really, I mean, the succulents love to be in a rock environment anyway. But it's fun to use the rocks, and I love that natural look. That's kind of my aesthetic. With some pops color, of course, of course. And you can go, you know, all kinds of fun with little fairies and gnomes. There's the little gnomes are really, really cute too. So we start out with our little bit of soil, again, in the bottom of our dish. And then the next thing I'm going to put in are my succulents. And you put them anywhere you want. Anywhere you want. And I've got some pretty large ones here, so I'm going to kind of drape them on the side, and you don't have to bury them in. Literally, you can sit them on top of the dirt, which is nice. That's why I like hens and chicks. And you can get these anywhere. Now, in the early spring, there are some nurseries, maybe not so much local. You might have to go to larger towns, and they sell specifically fairy garden plants, so miniature version. They're alpine or mountain type plants, but they might not all necessarily be hardy to our planting zone here. That's the only thing. And if you're okay with that, you know, that's fine. But that's why I like to use succulents that are hardy to our area. That way things can be planted outside. So you can go little, you can go big. I've got quite a few in here. And then the next thing I do is, of course, your gnome or your fairy has to have a house, right? It's a must. It's a must. So you can put the house anywhere. You can set it, you know, behind or in front of your succulents, so like a mountain of succulents. That's fine. You could do that. It's plus it leans up against. You know, for the purpose of today, I know it's going to be a little mobile, so your little house might fall over. So I like to use my succulents as a little anchor, let's say. I love rocks. I'm a rock hound. I don't know if any of you like to go to the beach and find some Petoskey stones or, you know, pudding stones. I like to find unique stones. My daughter Lexi was a rock hound too, so that's why I like to collect rocks and use them in anything that I have that I know she would like. So the next thing I'm gonna do is take some of the river rock, the larger rock, and thankfully my husband, when we picked this up, he washed them off. So you should be able to see some nice colors and whatnot. And I like to put these kind of like landscape boulders. We're gonna pretend they're landscape boulders up near the house. And what's fun is, I mean, you can change this up. So one fun little thing that I'll share with you guys is at our fairy garden, out at the butterfly garden, you know, once we put it up, we didn't know how, when we first started doing it, how the public was gonna react. Let me tell you, the kids love it. Not just little kids, but big kids too. But we have families that come by every day, and once a week, about once a week, we're out there maintaining, weeding, watering, whatnot. There's the same kids, they come and some of them bring these little characters. They literally go to the dollar store and they add to it. So then we started finding new little characters that got added to our fairy garden, and we're like, let's do this. And sometimes we have no idea, but that's the fun and joy, because it's become something that is you know, these kids and families are together and they're finding joy in doing something together, and they're walking, exercise, right? Which is so cool. Linda?
Yesterday I was at the Diamond Trail, under the pavilion. We were having a Bible study there, and the city bus stopped, and somebody else counted the kids that got off from CMH.
Yeah.
There was 21 of them, she said. I didn't count them, but a few of them had something in their hand. And this one guy, we heard him say, I don't want to walk. I gotta take the bus. I don't want to walk. And it must have been their worker said, well, we got that, and if you don't want to walk back there, then you can just take it home, because, you know, we're putting it in the garden, she said. He was the first one there, I think.
Well, then I need to go into the garden, even if it's raining today, to see what they left. See, that's the fun part. I mean, it's nice because we're right near the ISD, and a lot of those kids will come out and walk and enjoy that. And we're getting to the longest daylight of the year here with the summer solstice coming up, and it's all lit up with solar lights. So that's nice. So out at Diamond Trail, they host the glow walk that Eva's Place facilitates out there, and it's a great time to see those lights. So we have fun, you know, at night. It's nice because we have some nighttime blooming flowers that just smell divine. So, I mean, that's like the whole goal of doing this. The butterfly garden is just finding the joy in our life again. You know, we're not gonna forget our loved ones or any traumas that happen in our life, but we gotta be able to live and find joy and spread that joy. And I know my daughter, my granddaughters, and my mom is up there with her now too, are just very happy that we're doing this. So that's why we love to do this too. So I don't know if girls can see, I started building the boulders, the landscape boulders, but I like having a water feature. Now, obviously I'm not gonna have a real water feature. So that's why I have the blue rocks. So I'm just going to put a little bit of the blue rock off to the side to pretend I have a pond. And so, yeah, that's why I kind of brought some of the blue rock today, and some of the little characters or the little figurines I brought. There's a fountain, and there's like a little wishing well that you can choose from if they're still back there. But I love using, you know, the colored rock. At the Fairy Garden, we have glow in the dark rocks with lit lights from up underneath. So that's kind of fun. So that lights up at night. So now I'm gonna make this little water feature, and I'm gonna line it with some more rocks. Because I like accenting or bordering my gardens with rocks. And we have rocks everywhere. I mean, who farms and has rock piles? I mean, rocks are free around here, basically, you know? And that's the thing. We have a lot of friends that are farmers, and they're like, you know what, guys? Go for it. And those are some of the best things to use in fairy gardens, are rocks. The other things are, say you have a stump, took down a tree. I love using stumps. Because you can get little doors and you can attach them right to a stump, and you can make your own little fairy house. Oh yeah, lots of fun. So now I'm gonna fill it back in with a little more blue. There we go. And so now I'm gonna make a path with the pea gravel. So which is ironically, when my knee popped, I was on pea gravel walking in my backyard. So now I'm just gonna put some in front of the house. And it doesn't have to be, you know, you can change it up. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's the nice thing about the natural look. I think gorgeous is the imperfection of things, you know? So I have a little path, like a little sidewalk. They can walk up to the house. And then I'm just gonna fill in with some more bigger rocks. And you can leave some dirt, showing some dirt. Now, I don't have a little gnome or fairy character. I had some that I brought today, but I figured I will let you gals kind of be creative in that manner, and you can find your own fairies and gnomes, you know, or you can make them. I've seen people make them with acorns, you know, the little calves, and yeah, exactly. Pine cones. And that's the fun thing. You can use like dowels. I mean, if you want to, you know, recycle, upcycle, little miniature dowels you could put in your garden too. But you can get really super creative. Now, I have quite a few. I think that looks pretty darn cute.
It does.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just a matter of minutes. I mean, you can literally do a large space in your yard in a matter of minutes for sure. I have a lot of different other hardy plants that I use in my fairy garden on a miniature level. I have a second fairy garden out at the butterfly garden, and it's underneath a large redwood tree. And so it gets a lot of shade. I have, does anyone have hostas in their yard? Yeah.
I saw your mini
The
one.
mini hostas, yes. Now, mini hostas can be a little harder to find, and they're a little pricier, and the deer do like them. However, where I have the hostas placed, tucked in and protected, the deer haven't found them. I have several different varieties, and plus my family have a lot of different hostas that I was able to, you know, get from them, which that's what I love. A lot of the plants and the items out at the garden are from family and friends that added to my garden. And I just love it when people want to, you know, participate in that way. Like, I have some extra plants or flowers. Would you be interested? And I'm like, absolutely, because I love the community aspect of it out there. You know, I do. So I have mini Solomon seal. Is anyone familiar with Solomon seal? So Solomon seal is a shade plant, and it looks very similar to a bleeding heart. It kind of has scapes, but it's much larger. It almost looks palmish, palm tree-ish. So a little larger. I have mini version back there, and it is so neat. And so and it pops up, it spreads. So every year since we've started this, it's looked different, and that's what I like, because you can change the look of your fairy gardens, and you can grow a village, right? Why not? And it's fun to do, like I said, if you gals have spent time with your grandchildren or your children or nieces and nephews, this is a fun thing to do with them, and then get them involved with real plants. And then, and this is where I always I have a nephew who's 10, and we talk about, you know, the plants and the butterflies. And of course, I like to plant other plants that attract butterflies and other pollinators, because of course we need pollinators for life, to sustain life, quite honestly. So we talk about, you know, the purpose of the pollinators and how it can help our plants, help grow what we eat, help feed us, and it's all cyclical, right? So, and it gets them a little more interested in getting their hands dirty. I don't mind, like all summer long, my nails, I don't do my nails. And I personally don't like wearing gardening gloves because I like to, especially on the miniature level, I like to touch things and be able to feel the details, and I'm very hands-on. So you just get a nail brush and just clean out for sure. How many have fairy gardens in their houses?
All of them now.
Yeah, well, we all know now, right? Well, so, and if anyone works, too, these like a good desk, or a desk item, or like a window ledge. This would be a fun thing to do, and it's interesting, it's conversational, and it can change, so it's kind of fun in that aspect too. So does anybody have any questions about any of the plants that we use, or you can use? Yeah.
Yeah, this can sit outside
Yes.
all winter.
Yep, so if you're going to put these outside, I would recommend them putting in the ground. Because if you leave them in a container, everything will freeze, and that is what's, yeah, so you don't typically wanna leave plants, even hardy plants, in a container over winter. What you wanna do is just put these right in the ground, and literally you can set them on the ground, or like we did, on top or in rocks. Different types of sedum. There's tall sedum, but I really like the ground sedum. Actually, I have a variety that's blooming yellow right now, and it's gorgeous. And a lot of times that sedum that is a ground cover, it kind of helps hold things together. Their roots will spread and really hold the rocks together, which is really, really nice. Because I have a rock wall, I have a place in my backyard where we just got an in-ground pool, and it was built into like a hill. And so actually, ironically, when we got rid of our in-ground pool, my daughter said, why don't you make a fire pit? So that's exactly what we did. We had access to rocks, and we just built a rock wall, filled it, put a sunk-in fire ring and gravel. And so that's where I built my fairy garden, is built right into the tallest part of the rock wall. And this is where I have hens and chicks, actually several different varieties. There's a lot of nice little local greenhouses around here, Mennonite Amish greenhouses that carry different varieties of these hens and chicks. So you can get some colorations. So it's kind of nice to have some different colors. Now, when the hens and chicks, if you've ever seen a hen and chick, have you ever seen one get tall or get like so call that a rooster? That's the end of its life, just so you know, and that's okay. That's okay. So it'll brown up, it'll shrivel up, and you literally, you can compost it or throw it away, whatever, put it in your yard waste, but that's the end of its life. Because it's put its energy into shooting more babies, and just like anything else, right? Yeah. So, but these are my favorite things. Also, there are I like columbine. Is everyone familiar with what columbine are? Those are early spring. I've got some blooming right now, but they're on the tail end of their blooming. Those are nice to have like behind, almost like and they kind of dangle over top. It's almost like a tree effect. And so I like to use taller plants that might go behind. Another really good fairy garden plant that is it's a prolific cedar, so you have to kind of keep it in check, are English daisies. English daisies are just tiny, and they have just beautiful jeweled colors, and they spread. They can spread, but that's the uniqueness. You might find one in a spot where you're like, oh, I would like to have something there, but then next year you'll see. And a lot of times you will see babies pop up throughout a growing season. So that's how prolific they are at reseeding, because you'll see them in the same growing season. Another couple plants that I really like, especially if you have a shade area, are coral bells. I have a couple mini coral bells out at the fairy garden, and those are blooming right now. And the hummingbirds love those. if they find them. So if they find them, because they're a little tucked in and lower, but they love 𝗚𝗲𝗹𝗃𝗲𝗹. And we have, in the backdrop of where the fairy gardens are though, we have much larger plants like butterfly bushes. I love verbena. Verbena is another great pollinating plant. It can put out seeds, and so now I'm picking out little baby verbenas everywhere, which is great if I want to share with people, which I have a lot of baby plants out there that I'm very willing to do. Very, very willing to do. It's really fun, and the natural look is again, it's something that I enjoy. And some people like more vibrant colors, and that's okay. One other plant I really wanted to share with you that I really like in fairy garden. Thyme, creeping thyme. Yeah, so out in my gardens, I have something called elfin thyme, so it's very, very small. You can use regular creeping thyme. It smells good, you can walk on it because I've got to get in there to weed, still weed. And it puts out these tiny little flowers and it spreads. So if you want to create like a fake lawn, well, I mean, it's real, it's a plant, but if you want to create a grass effect and not have to worry about mowing or trimming the grass, thyme is fantastic and it spreads really good. And you can easily, just cut a piece or take a piece out and move it to another place that you want to fill in. It's fantastic, it's really hardy, and it's really easy to handle.
Have you used pennyroyal?
No, I haven't. Oh, I might have to now.
You know what that is?
Yes.
Very small brown cover.
Yes.
And you rub it, get the mint smell.
I love ground covers in fairy gardens. Those are probably one of the easiest things that you don't have to worry about getting too big. I do have around some of the fairy gardens I have milkweed. That's one thing I know, milkweed is technically a weed, but you know what? A weed is just something in a place you don't want it, really. Everything's a weed somewhere, that's what I say. But milkweed is really important. Since it's pollinator week, is important to monarchs, and monarchs are now officially on the endangered list. Yeah, and it's because of pesticides, and it's very unfortunate that there's not, and it's milkweed that is the host plant of our monarch butterflies, and that's why I have a lot of it out at the gardens. Now it's invasive, so I have to keep it in check. Just like anything that has roots that like to spread under the ground, you just have to keep it in check. Bee balm, how many of you have bee balm in your yards? Yeah, I have a couple different forms of bee balms. One that's really good for fairy gardens, there's a miniature version, and the one I have has pink flowers, but again, it's a prolific spreader, so you just have to keep it in check. That's the thing, and you just pull out what you don't want and share it with friends, right? You can also keep it in pots, and that way put a pot right in the ground, and that will prevent the roots from spreading. Yeah, give it a barrier. So that's another thing you can do. Then the milkweed seeds too. And one thing you can do is before the flowers turn to seed pods, you can cut them off if you don't want them to go to seed. But it's what the leaves are what the caterpillars eat to nurture them and to grow. Has anyone seen a monarch yet in this area? I know I've seen one. So I'm itching. I'm itching to see them, that's for sure.
Are there any other plants besides milkweed
that they live on?
Yeah.
Monarchs, milkweed is the only plant. The native milkweed here in Michigan, there's two of them actually. They have a common milkweed, which a lot of us see along ditches, along farm fields. Swamp milkweed is another one. I have a couple of those plants out at the garden. They're not as prolifically spreading it by root, they reseed. And I have a couple of tropical type of milkweeds that they will also find, but it's only milkweed that monarchs will lay their eggs on, and they usually lay them on the back side. So you'll find me sometimes, I mean, even I might go into a public garden, or if I see a restaurant or somewhere that might have a spare milkweed, and I'll be peeking under the leaves to see if there's an egg, because I actually rear monarchs at my house too. So I'll rear them, and I will get them to emerge from there. From there, it's called a chrysalis, and then I'll release them out into the garden. So that's fun too. That's a fun thing too. But yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot of different host plants that our area butterflies will lay their eggs on. And that's one thing that I have really been mindful of at the garden, is putting in the host plants that would attract different area butterflies. So I know I've seen a lot of the eastern tiger swallowtails. They're big yellow butterflies, and those are beautiful. Those are, they like willows, any type of willow type plant. Yeah, which is trees too. So there's willow trees and other types of willows in the woods there behind us too. So now when it comes to cleaning up my gardens, fairy gardens included, since I have a lot of different hardy plants, I don't clean out my gardens until the spring. And I do that because if there are any little pollinators that burrow and overwinter, I want to have them have a place to go. So I will wait till maybe it's about 50-degree-ish out on a regular, and then I'll cut down things that need to be cut down and clean out leaves and things like that. So that way our pollinators that burrow themselves over winter have time to wake up and reemerge and then feed. So yeah, a lot of people, sorry, I'm losing my hair. I have a lot to lose, so it's okay. It's tickling me. So that's one thing that I actually recently, over the past few years, started doing, is not cleaning my gardens till the spring, for the very purpose of allowing pollinators to overwinter. And I have to tell you, 2 years ago when I was cleaning up my fairy garden out at the butterfly garden, we disturbed those large bumblebees. They burrow underground. They have to burrow under stumps too. And it was literally under the stump that I was using as a fairy house. And bumblebees, they don't bother me actually. I just don't like hornets, the aggressive hornets and wasps. But we disturbed it, and it lays its eggs underground. So yeah, I of course, cleaned up what I needed to clean up, and I let her be to raise her babies. So it's really interesting. I've learned so much in the 3.5 years that we've been doing this, and it's been a fun thing to do in our community for sure. And one thing that I really want to do out at Diamond Trail, if you're all familiar with Diamond Trail, on the fairy garden theme, is I would love to do like some type of permanent scavenger hunt for the kids. If you've seen, our district library has a different stations where you can read a book, and they change it all the way around the trail. They have these cases, and they have different pages for the same book that you can read with your kids, which is fantastic because you can walk and the whole trail and then read a book at the same time. I would love to have a little scavenger hunt of fairy doors. So yes, I think that would be fun. Yeah, that's something that I would love to have, and I think it would be really fun to do at Diamond Trail, because there's a lot of little places along the way.
Where is Diamond Trail?
It's not far from here. It's do you know where Maple Valley School is? Old Maple Valley School?
In town?
Yep. Yeah, here in Sandusky. So do you know where the health department is on Dawson Street? So that main light that you would turn off 46, which is Dawson at 46, instead of turning toward the health department, you go to the south. And so Maple Valley is literally the next block down. And then just south of Maple Valley Schools is Diamond Trail. And there's a beautiful pavilion there that you can rent. They just put in beautiful bathrooms there, year-round bathrooms. And they're just beautiful memorials all the way around. And there are, I believe the city got a grant to have trees that you can purchase in memory of a loved one, or say someone was retiring and you just wanted to do something special in their name. And there's a lot of beautiful memorial trees all the way around. So it's peaceful. It was just the best place to install a fairy garden and a butterfly garden there. So, and you know, it's not far from town, but it's still in town, and you get to enjoy the peace and serenity, and then the wildlife, seeing the deer that come in. Now, that's one thing I have to, that can be a challenge, especially with some of the plants that you work with. I do use a deer deterrent or a critter deterrent.
Spray.
Yeah. But I will tell you, I try to purchase things, or we use things that are deer resistant. They will always try something. Yeah, they will always nibble on young leaves. That's one thing, they like to want young leaves, young shoots. So things that I notice that they nibble down quite a bit, I will use a deer spray, a critter spray. So I don't use any pesticides or anything like that. We water by the grace of Mother Nature out there, which it's been pretty dry, so I'm very thankful that this rain happened today. Yeah, it's a very good thing. So, and if you don't want to walk the full mile out at Diamond Trail, there is a path that is cut across an area of, there is a farmer, local farmer that grows alfalfa in the middle. It hasn't been cut down yet, but the city mows down an area that you can cut across, and you can go visit the garden if you like, and the fairy gardens. And I really highly recommend you gals check out at night if you can. I know it's late to go out there, but it's magical. You know, I use that word, and it truly is. It just makes you feel, you know, no care in the world. And there's a nice bench you can sit out there and enjoy it for sure. Did everyone get to build a fairy garden? Oh, good. And, you know, if you want to take some time to, you know, use more rocks and more of the hens and chicks, please do so, because all of this is, again, courtesy of our organization, you know, through the garden. So please enjoy it. Linda, did you have a question?
As you go into Diamond Trail, there are 9 huge instruments, musical instruments, that the Lions Club purchased and put in there in remembrance of Bob Stakish.
Stash.
Thank
Yeah.
you. He was a music teacher here for years and years, and he played music at his church. And so you're welcome to go up there and play with them. The kids are welcome to do that. It's pretty kid friendly, and it's just a nice, you're not gonna miss the driveway, because they do have a sign out there, but you'll see the instruments, so it's just another nice thing. It's a beautiful place. And there is other things to sit at. There's some maybe exercise things, you know, exercise, you can just sit down for a minute, so it's well worth going to.
Yeah, it's well worth the visit for sure. And there's a lot of events that are being held now out at Diamond Trail, which is, it's a great venue for events, that's for sure.
Yes.
I know. And I wanted to mention too, I actually know Linda. I'm part of a local garden club here in Sandusky called the 𝗚𝗲𝘃𝗲𝗹 Garden Club, and I'm a member of that as well. And so is Linda, and we do caretake for quite a few gardens around the city of Sandusky here. And we do have a lot of events that we do out at Diamond Trail as well, because it's such a nice venue. And if anyone's ever interested in becoming part of the club, you know, we meet the second Wednesday of each month at 6 p.m. Sometimes locations change because we have hosts that enjoy
Sure.
posting at their home or their own garden. So, you know, you can get a hold of me. We have a Facebook page for the garden. So if you're on Facebook, we also have Instagram. Please feel free to search us out, and I hope you enjoyed this today and my story and why I do this. It's gonna hand out my extra little thing I have for everybody. Sorry, I didn't work on the camera.
I
so
didn't hear anybody, say that Matt was a loyal, on the law, policeman, for Sandusky town also.
Yes, he's
So, hopefully he's not behind you with any lights blinking, but
he's been a wonderful help of mine.
and he's also in the garden club too.
Yes.
Well, thank you everyone for coming. This was a great event. Jen, thank you so much for your presentation. Just a reminder that we have, July 16th, we have Cooking with Kids with Erin Carlson. That'll be a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.